let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Thank you for choosing the State of the Saints podcast on this Wednesday afternoon. It is not going to be a long show, not at all. But I did want to talk a little bit about Saints training camp. Got some news that has taken place probably in the last hour or so that came down. And also just want to give a special shout out to everybody that's watching this right now. If you're in the chat, thank you so much as well. Also, just want to give a special shout out to Miss Barbara. Miss Barbara, I just want to give you a shout out, say thank you. I appreciate it. I was at the radio station on yesterday, and our program director, Mr. Ernie, he decided to he would go to the mailbox, and I got your gift, and I appreciate that. Much love to you, and thank you for your support for that. I just want to, it means a lot, that people, reach out to you. She ended up, Miss Barbara realized that I was sick last week, and she sent me like a little bit of a home remedy. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And everybody that ever showed love and writes an email, anything that you do, thank you so much for making this all possible. And thank you so much for, believing in me, and believing in this show. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Saints training camp, the update. There were some dates that were announced, not the entire training camp schedule, but the dates in which the players are supposed to report. July 18th, the rookies will be reporting for training camp. And on the 25th, the veterans will be a part of training camp. I mean, just having these dates coming out right now, it just generates excitement, right? I mean, because, everybody know about training camp. Everybody knows, it happens every single year. But, when you start getting dates and times where you can actually prepare to try to come out there if you can, or, try to know what's going on because, you got so many great dedicated reporters that cover the team. This is always a great time. And we know that this is a little bit of a different team. Time brings on a change. And there are some things that the New Orleans Saints did this past offseason that, we're excited about. Adding Derek Carr as quarterback, bringing in Jamal Williams, bringing in, Kendre Miller, Alvin Kamara coming back. Michael Thomas looked like, he's ahead of schedule. Chris Olave looks like he's taking the next step. Rashid Shaheed not only changed his number, but it seems like, he's going to be much more than we anticipate. The Saints adding A.T. Perry, guys like Smoke Monday, who people are excited to look at and see. So, I mean, looking at this training camp schedule and knowing that these guys, when they're going to report, it is great. And not only that, another year where the New Orleans Saints will be at the Ochsner Performance Center. I know there was a big issue a couple of years back when the Saints were going, I think, to West Virginia, and people felt like, the team was getting a little bit soft because they was in really good conditions and they didn't have to really worry about the heat and all that kind of stuff there. Being in Metairie, Louisiana in the summertime, anybody that's from New Orleans, stays in New Orleans, know what I'm talking about. That 100% humidity slap you all across the face. And it's just a different type of energy and a different type of heat down there. So, you definitely have to think about that psychologically and dealing with that type of stuff but also being able to put forth your best performance. You got some guys that are trying to step up to take that extra step, maybe for a starting position or even be in the rotation. Guys like Alante Taylor and Paulson Adebo has been the talk among offseason Saints fans and reporters everywhere about which one of those guys are going to be opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. And you want these guys to be able to bring the energy. You want them to be able to bring it every single day because, things happen at the cornerback position where guys get hurt. And you want individuals to be able to step up and handle their business in the absence of that particular starter. And you also want to see improvements. You also want to see improvements from guys that are coming from year one to year two, or guys that probably were on a cusp of being something special, but maybe got cut down due to injuries or something else that may have prohibited them from actually being able to reach that full potential. So it's fun to be able to talk about those things, yes, but it's also good to see some of these things play out. Once again, July 18th is the rookies are going to report, and then July 25th, the veterans are going to report. Once again, training camp will take place at the Oxmoor Performance Center in Metairie, Louisiana, where, it's been, last year and the year before that. So that's a plus right there. I didn't expect it to be anywhere else, knowing that Dennis Allen trying to build his chemistry. He's trying to build a team in his image. So, you want to be able to give them some type of adverse situation where they can actually overcome and also build chemistry, build camaraderie, and also build a team that he feels is necessary to be able to take that extra step into the postseason. That's all for me, man. I'm gonna go ahead and read some of your comments. But I just wanted to announce that. And once again, this is not going to be a long show because I gotta be done with this in the next 20 to 25 minutes. Let's see. It says Keen Arthur says, "Whoa, now hit that like button and subscribe to the SOTS on your way in." Appreciate that, Keen Arthur, and I appreciate everybody hitting that like button and hitting the subscription button. I did see an increase in subscriptions from individuals. So I'm glad that they're hitting the subscription button. We're very, very close to hitting 10,000 subscribers. And if everybody just hit the subscription button, it would be great. If everybody just hit the like button, the numbers will increase, the subscriptions will increase. So I'm just asking everybody, if you watch the State of the Saints podcast, if you support the show, you want to show love to the show, just hit the subscription button and hit the like button. And I will really, really, really appreciate that. You are so welcome, TJ. Well, Barbara, thank you. I appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. And it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot that people, care enough about me as an individual to be able to, do something like that. So I appreciate it. If Matthew Stafford can do it his first year, so can Derek Carr. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that the stars were kind of aligned for Matthew Stafford to be able to go out there and put forward a Super Bowl performance for the Los Angeles Rams. But I will say this, and this is not a knock or to mean to be disrespectful, but Sean McVay has proven that he's a better coach than Dennis Allen as a head coach. So we know that Sean McVay is an offensive genius. That's the reason why he got the job so early in his life, right? Sean McVay is the same age as me, and this man is a leader of men and a Super Bowl champion head coach, and he's been to the Super Bowl twice. Like, that's crazy, right? I mean, the man is the same age as me, and yet he's leading men. You know what I'm saying? Probably some of those guys are older than he is, and most of the coaches are probably older than he is. But I think that he's a better coach. But that's neither here nor there. They can attain that. Derek Carr can win a Super Bowl for the New Orleans Saints. I think that's attainable. About 70 days to go till we get some football. Well, we got some football already. I mean, I guess you're talking about the NFL. I mean, the USFL has been played. XFL has been played. So, I mean, to try to quench your thirst of football, I mean, is out there. You know what I'm saying? They got some things that, you can focus on. I understand that this is the big leagues and people's eyes, and all the rest of this stuff is just white noise. But, those guys go out there and they work hard too. And some of those games are very, very, interesting and fun to watch. But I understand what you're saying. You want to see some NFL football. I agree with you. TJ, do you plan to attend any of our home games this season? Yeah, I plan on attending some home games. I plan on going back to Atlanta for the Falcons Saints game. I plan on doing that. And, man, I plan on going to some of the games as well. I plan on traveling this year, man. I plan on traveling this year to be able to come to some of the games. And also, I want to be able to probably do one of my podcasts live from, a venue in New Orleans. That's just probably what I'm probably going to end up doing one of the home games. So hopefully I can get those things done. But all that involves planning. But I plan on going to a home game or two. I definitely will. I want to see where the fire is from there to be smoked. I guess you're referring to Smoke Monday. I think a lot of people are excited about seeing what he can actually do on the field. Let's see. I like training camps at Millsaps. Yeah, I mean, Millsaps wasn't bad either. I mean, you basically got the same type of weather, being out there in Jackson. And, it's kind of, it presents the same type of element as it would in New Orleans. Just give some individuals a different place to go. But I want to say that was like a means to an end during that time because the city was still pretty much destroyed during that time, and the Saints didn't really have anywhere to practice. Of course, they didn't even have any home games for that particular point. They had to play a few games away, and just for them to be able to get the Superdome straight enough in order for the Saints to be able to play. So, Millsaps present the same type of element as New Orleans, though. If you ever been to Jackson, lived in Jackson, I know it very, very well. Everybody knows that I went to Jackson State, so spent a lot of time in Jackson and, also traveling home down 20 to Vicksburg. So, yeah, it presents the same type of element. Says, I come back and listen later. I'm about to go try and get some autographs from a few players I see. Okay, well, that sounds good, man. I don't know exactly where are you right now. I don't know if you put that in the chat or not, but where are you right now to be able to get autographs? Said TJ, they think we walk around with towels on our head and umbrellas for fashion, bro. It ain't be hot enough to slow cook a cold cup and no. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hot out there, man. Like I remember one time. I'll tell you, I'm give y'all a story. I remember one time I had my friends. All of them are from Mississippi originally, and I remember we decided to go down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. I took them down to New Orleans for the first time they'd never been. And I remember like when we had to walk from, I want to say, let's just say where the French Market is to Canal, right? So y'all know that's a good little walk right there. That's about a half a mile. Man, when we got to like Canal Street to, be in front, for the floats to pass by, my friend, he had to like sit on the curb because the heat hit him that hard. Like he had to go into a Popeyes to actually get something to drink because it was that bad out there. And it just made me realize like I guess when you live there for so long, you become immune to it. It's almost like somebody that lives in Denver, when it comes to the thin air, it don't really bother them. But somebody that actually, probably going there for the first time, they got to get oxygen and all that. But it was just weird, man. I mean, New Orleans is a different beast. That 100% humidity is absolutely no joke. I live in Scranton, Pennsylvania now, but I grew up in Louisiana, and the summers, he was like being in the sauna. I guess you meant the summers was like being in the sauna. Yeah, it is. I mean, you can literally just be standing still, and then you'll be just drenching with sweat. Like it's crazy. Like I remember waiting for the bus and just sweating profusely, you know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, it was just that hot out there. Can fry egg on a concrete step is so hot. Deuces says, who that, baby? You ready for the season, TJ? Yeah, I'm just ready to be able to talk about some football and not just pure speculation and predictions and all that kind of stuff, to actually see these things play out, number one. And number two, be able to evaluate it. I mean, it's kind of hard, like, me starting this publication, the Gumbo Pot Sports, it's kind of hard to try to find things to really talk about that not really seem as redundant, and talk about the same thing over and over again. because not only am I talking about the Saints, but I'm talking about other teams as well. And, you want to be able to put information out there that people can enjoy and don't just sound like the same thing over and over again. So to be able to evaluate and look at games and evaluate players and their progress or lack thereof, I'm looking forward to it. I think Taylor will win the cornerback position. Well, I don't think there's a loser in there. I think both guys are really good. So it's win-win for the Saints because both of those guys are going to end up playing this season. How much is the question? Let's see, TJ, is the success of our defense going to fall largely on the shoulders of our D-line? So many question marks. I think that it plays a huge role, but it's not just them. It's a collection of that defense being able to start fast enough and develop enough chemistry where they're not, starting off very, very slow. I just realized over the last 3 years, like the Saints just really start slow defensively. It's certain things that they'll probably do well. Like the tackling may be done well, but the coverage is terrible. The coverage may be top notch, but the opposition is breaking tackles. I just want to see these guys, perform really, really well. I want to say the best season opener that I ever seen the Saints play in a minute. Like just thinking about some of the week one season openers. It's probably you probably have to go back. It's like when they played the Atlanta Falcons, not last year, but a couple of years back. And to me, it was almost like Kenny Vaccaro's rookie season. Like when Kenny Vaccaro knocked down the pass to win the game for the Atlanta Falcons. But if you look at, for the Saints, Falcons. But anyway, he ended up winning the game with a pass deflection. But in that game, I think the Saints had maybe like 4 or 5 sacks on Matt Ryan. I have to really look. Now, some of the games have been exciting. We know about the week one game versus the Houston Texans. That was exciting, when Will Lutz kicked the 58-yard field goal to win the game. The game last year versus the Falcons. The game before that versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played really well. I guess you can put that game into that category also. But I'm talking about where everything was hitting, right? When you were seeing turnovers. I think, it was the game like you were seeing turnovers. And you were seeing sacks, and you were seeing like the defense really get at it. And the crazy thing about that is that defense wasn't even that good. It wasn't even that good. Like that was the stretch where the Saints couldn't stop traffic with a stop sign. But they found a way to be able to get pressure on Matt Ryan and get, I want to say like 4 or 5 sacks as a group in that game. And that's the type of energy I think that Saints fans are looking for. They're looking for the energy of the defensive line. But I don't just think it just falls squarely on their shoulders. You need it from every level. That including the linebackers too, and the secondary. And I would like to see an improvement when it comes to the team generating turnovers. Like there were 2 little turnovers last season for my liking. And I'm pretty sure you probably feel the same way too. So hopefully, all levels of the defense will be able to improve. This is the Saints' year. Hope they finish the season in Vegas holding that trophy. Well, I think that's everybody's dream that the Saints actually do that. I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I'm mostly focusing on them improving and being able to finish games and also being able to understand situational football a little bit better. I don't want to say they don't understand situational football, but I just feel like in certain situations, I don't feel like they were fully prepared. Or maybe I just felt like the opposing coach outcoached our coaching staff, and I don't want to see that, right? I want to see some improvements in situations where, they probably would end up losing or falling short. I want to see them improve in that type of game, in that aspect. But besides that, I think they should be okay. I don't think the Saints are that far off from reaching their full potential. It just consistency has been the issue. And it's hard to get consistency when you're having guys that are hurt and the guys that are supposed to be your starters and they're supposed to be working on developing chemistry. They can't because this guy is hurt, that guy comes back, and now I got to work with him, and then he gets hurt. It's hard to do that. So hopefully they'll be able to put it all together. And if they do, then watch out. They got a chance. But the quarterback from Birmingham, Mr. Magoo, he looked pretty good the other day. And I was rooting for the New Orleans team, but Birmingham won. Yeah, I mean, Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, won the USFL championship last year. So they're trying to repeat. And based on who they're playing, it seems like they got a real strong chance. But if you look at their record, I mean, it's the same thing that happened in the XFL. Everybody expected for the Generals to win, if I'm not mistaken, but they had the best record, and then they end up losing to Arlington. And Arlington, I want to say they were barely above 500. So it's not always about the record. It's about who's going to show up on that day. And that creates great drama for football fans. Love the show. Hope you're enjoying your summer, buddy. Yeah, Joseph, I am enjoying the summer, man. Honestly, I decided to, cut down some weight a little bit. Been working out, doing some cardio. Been, hanging out with my nephew. He went back last week. That was fun. We're going to try to make that a tradition, him come down every single year. And also just, man, watching my son, grow up and be able to do things with him. Around this time last year, it probably was hard to do certain things because he didn't understand it. But now he's starting to understand things more. Like watching wrestling with him, that's pretty cool. I talked to him about Ric Flair, and I asked him, what does Ric Flair do? He's like, whoa, But yeah, man, just fun, man. And also just with the radio station being able to travel and do things and, take part in some pretty cool stuff, man. So it's been a pretty good summer here, man. Pretty good summer. Hope you're having a good one. I hope everybody's having a good summer so far. I remember watching the Saints training camp at Millsap College in Jackson, Mississippi in 2007. Yeah. And the crazy thing about it is I'm right down the street, Jerry, back in 2007, because in 2007, I was going into my senior year. I graduated Jackson State in 2008. So that was the 2007-2008 year. And I didn't even go to it. I couldn't tell you why I didn't go. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't get a chance to go. I was at Jackson State at the time. I was in summer school during that time. Because, I was in summer school. Let's see, Jerry, I was there in 2008, got a pick with Sean Payton. TJ, do you like Alante in the slide on the outside? I prefer to see him, Debo, and Laddie on the field at the same time. Well, I think that's what you're going to get, King Arthur. I think regardless to who wins this outside battle between Debo and Taylor, both of them are going to play. One guy might end up, playing in the slide, playing a little bit on the outside. But the best thing about this is, and I've said this on several episodes, it's good that the Saints have versatile cornerbacks, because I felt that was the issue that plagued them throughout the years defensively. When one guy goes down and they put a guy that is, mostly doing his dirty work in the slot, never really getting opportunities to play on the outside. And then when somebody gets hurt, he has no choice but to go to the outside, and he gets smoked and embarrassed every single time. It just wasn't fun to look at. And the Saints had to find themselves trying to get through the game. And on Tuesday, trying to find somebody that can play on the outside, that can be serviceable. So now that they have a guy like Taylor, they got a guy like Paulson Adebo that can play both and be able to be effective. And if you add Bradley Roby, who can do both as well, I think that it is a great situation for the Saints to be in the secondary. So, yeah, I don't mind, regardless. If anybody asks me, who do I want to win, there is no losers in this situation. Maybe those guys feel that way, based on how they feel about themselves. But as a fan, as an onlooker, there's no loss in this situation, because both of these guys are good. Now, both of these guys, I don't feel like that they are that far off. Some people are talking and telling me that Alante Taylor is that much better than Paulson Adebo. And I keep saying, what did you see? What did you actually see? If you and somebody was, also said to me that, when I was talking about analytics and statistics, I made it seem, and put it in a favor of Paulson Adebo. by using Paulson Adebo's rookie year versus Alontae Taylor's rookie year. But all I'm saying is they're not that far apart. I mean, even if I was to combine the analytics from Paulson Adebo year 1, year 2 divided by 2, it will still average out around the same amount as Alontae Taylor first year analytics. I want to say, I think if I'm not mistaken, Alontae Taylor had a 54.2. And if you combine Paulson Adebo's first 2 years, it comes up to a 54.7. They're that close. And people act as if, and I'm not knocking him, but people act as if Alontae Taylor was just out there like just shutting down the field. Like there were plays where he got beat. There were plays where, he was out of position. There were plays like that. But I just think that sometimes when, and people get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to continue to say it. Sometimes we have the Buzz Lightyear syndrome, right? Buzz Lightyear was the new shiny toy, and Woody was the toy that was always around, right? Now you got this new shiny toy, you just tend to forget about Woody. But Woody is just as valuable and loyal as any other toy, right? And that's the way I feel when it comes to Paulson Adebo. Neither one of these guys have done anything to separate themselves for a no-brainer, right? A no-brainer is like, this ain't even worth the conversation. These guys are worth the conversation. To me, I don't think that there's any different. I think both of these guys present great qualities that can make them a starter, but also there are some things that's going to frustrate you. Seriously. That's just how it goes. For the Alontae Taylor fans out there, supporters, that guys that desperately or women that want this guy desperately to be the starter, he still has some growing to do as well. It's not like, he came out here being Darrelle Reeves or Deion Sanders. Like both of these guys have some work to do. So I'm not trying to throw either one of these guys away. It's wide open. TJ, do you like a line? Already read that one. It says exactly. Read it. Just watch it all unfold. Let's see. Carr winning the bowl in Vegas instead of for Vegas. Yeah, that would be crazy, right? Do you think the O-line is the biggest weakness of the team right now? I don't think the O-line is the biggest weakness of the team right now. This is going to sound crazy, but I never felt like the offensive line was weak. This is the issue, folks. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you seen this offensive line play together as a cohesive unit? Like, even with like James Hurst, like if Trevor Penning would have played the entire preseason, no injury, no nothing, James Hurst would have been a starter. Like the Saints would have just put him out there. Because here's the reality. If you have two guys that when you evaluate them, you pretty much come out with a wash, the team more than likely going to go with the young gun, right? Because the veteran guy is more than likely supposed to be there just until the young guy gets, up to where the veteran is or above him. And then, of course, then the veteran goes away. But if they're on the same level, then you're probably going to let that rookie start, right? So Trevor Penning wasn't there. You had some guys that were out there, already, like, Reeves and all that kind of stuff there. But you had injuries in the preseason. Guys were scratching and clawing, trying to get themselves back into, like, playing shape. And they never really had the time to develop any chemistry. So after that first game, that really wasn't that, that good. You can talk about, like, some of the issues that happened. But they never really played together. Like, it's always like, okay, if McCoy comes back, in comes, like, Pete is out, right? Pete is out for a certain amount of time. Now you got to bring in Kid, right? Kid got to replace him, or Reeves go down, or Ramczyk goes down. It's like they never been together long enough for me to really just sit up here and just say, are they that weak? Now, I will say this. I do believe, and this happens with a lot of offensive lines. I think that a lot of their issues had very much to do with Drew Brees no longer being a quarterback. Just think about this. This is a guy who has been a quarterback for 15 years, understands the playbook like the back of his hand, and the offensive line don't really have to think about, calling out anything. Like, because Drew Brees going to see it before then. He's going to tell the offensive line what they need to do. I think they're going to get better this season because of the knowledge and the similarities of the offense that Derek Carr ran throughout his career. I think it's going to pay dividends for him. So I think you're going to see an improvement. Now, some people was probably going to look at this as a knock on Jameis. This is not. I just look at the schemes and what Derek Carr has played throughout his entire career, for the most part, that West Coast offense, even though, Jameis is, to me, a West Coast quarterback. I feel like some of the things that the New Orleans Saints have done throughout the, career, throughout their time, and also Derek Carr throughout his time, I feel like, it's probably going to help them out. And I just think that some of the knowledge and some of the things that Derek Carr brings to the table is probably going to help that offensive line. Because sometimes, those quarterbacks make those offensive lines look better than what they actually are. Let's see. What up, TJ? My birthday is in 4 days. I'm about to be the big 32. Well, happy birthday to you, man. Says thoughts about our team, our offensive line going to make making the chemistry for Derek Carr. If defensive line going to dominate again in 2023. Where are you from, TJ? I live in South Carolina. Shout out to the Ninth Ward in New Orleans. I'm from Memphis. It's too hot outside in my hometown. So are you ready to win 2023? I can't wait. Our team is making a playoff championship and the Super Bowl. That's a lot right there. That's a lot. It looked like we lived in South Carolina and we lived in New Orleans and then we lived in Memphis. Okay, so first let's start off with the question. All right, you say what I think about the offensive line. I think I just answered that, how I feel about that. As far as South Carolina, I stay in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm excited about the season. I don't know about the Super Bowl, but I think the Saints are going to be a playoff. I think the Saints are going to be a playoff team. I will say that. I'm confident about that. I sure hope the referees are going to be don't screw up. Not in 2023, TJ. Enough of the bad penalty calls from them, for real. Yeah, I think everybody tired of the referees, but at this point, man, what can you do? Like, you got to play well enough in order to take it out the referee's hands. That's the real question that we should be asking ourselves. Like, why do the Saints constantly allow themselves to put it into the hands of the referees? Now, I understand. Like, some people might get mad at me for saying this. I'm sorry. You feel like the referee, that is his job to be able to see certain things and call it like it is, but at this particular point, it's a parody. We know that the NFL is about parody. It's about storylines. It's about stuff like that, right? So we know that, despite what the Dallas Cowboys are going to look like, they're going to be on TV, right? We know no matter where a star quarterback goes, no matter if they go from a team of riches to a team of rags, they're going to dominate the majority of primetime games, right? We know that most of the headlines of the big name shows that we watch every morning are going to be taken over by Cowboys, Steelers, and New England Patriots. So with that being said, we know, just as much as I said these stories, we know that when it comes to the referees and the New Orleans Saints, now it has become a parody. So we know that the NFL likes parody. We know that they like these storylines and they want to keep these things going. So if the Saints have a nip-tuck game versus a team of relevance and they end up losing to the referees, guess what? It's a parody now. Saints fans crying about the referees, right? And the Saints not doing enough to get the job done is the narrative. So how do you change that? You change it by changing the situation. You change your behavior. Stop putting it into the hands of the referees. It's that simple. Now, some people might say, well, it's the National Football League. Everybody's good. Well, if the Saints are as good as we believe they are, and they are as disciplined as they should be, we should never be in these positions. We should never be in these positions. Let's just call a spade a spade. How many times have we seen the Saints beat the brakes off a team, but allow some lowly team that they should just go ahead and just slap around and go home, just hang around? And then all of a sudden, like, we on edge, and now we're looking for perfection, right? That's just kind of what it is, right? It's almost like if you go to the gym, you playing a whole court game, and you up by 20, right? Now, you're up by 20, you're bringing the ball down the court. Man, you might shoot that thing from half court just to see if you can do it. They ain't coming back. But then all of a sudden they get a rebound, run down the court. That's another 2, and another 2, and another 2, and another 2, and another 2. Now they down by 10. Then somebody shoot a 3, and another 3, and another 3. Now they down by 1. What you going to do? Your energy is going to be different, right? So you got to be able to dictate that, right? You know what I'm saying? You can't just be playing around with these guys and then they come back and all of a sudden like, oh, man, look at the referees. What they doing? What they doing? What they doing? Nah, what is your team doing? I'm just trying to keep it 100. What your team doing? Like, so they gotta stop putting it into the hands of the referees, because quite frankly, if you know the referees are more than likely not going to rule in your favor, why even put it in their hands? If Alante Taylor is better, he needs to show it. If Smoke Monday is better, he needs to show he is better. The best player should play. I think that's the truth. I don't think that you should put players on the field just because of their draft positioning. If they're not good enough, they're not good enough. So what if both of the Saints and other teams is playing discipline? How can you take it out of the referee's hands? That particular situation right there rarely ever happens. Like, seriously, that rarely ever happens. It's just the truth. Like, it's very rare that you're going to see a game, very little penalties, and both teams, like, don't make any type of mistakes. Most of the time when you get put in these positions because of mistakes. Or, or the fact that if the teams are like equally matched, that I can understand a situation like that. But more times than not, it's not going to come down to that. A lot of the teams end up losing games because they're not disciplined, or they end up losing games because a guy drop a pass, or, they're not accounting for a certain type of defense or offense or what have you. It just happens that way. Like, to say that every time the Saints come into the game, they're going to go up against a team that's going to be equally matched and something like that will happen. That's just kind of far-fetched. But, things like that do happen, but they don't happen as consistently. Like, a lot of, like, the games where the Saints actually had an opportunity to win the game, right? I can point to, like, certain situations in which if they would have capitalized, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Once again, we're only having this conversation because the Saints were on the receiving end of an L, right? I mean, when the game was lax or it was cool and nothing really was going on, or the fact that we felt like they had in control, we didn't care. Like, they was calling flags all throughout the game, but ain't nobody say anything because we only started paying attention until the end because we know that it's that time, right? So, yeah, you're going to have games where, both of the teams are disciplined. Yes, you're going to have games where both of the teams are equally matched, but that's not going to happen all the time, But if you're asking the referees to be perfect when the players aren't, they're not going to always be perfect. And if you know for a fact, once again, that they are not more than likely going to rule in your favor, why even put it in that position? Why even put it in their hands? That should give you much more of an incentive to be able to handle your business. Like, I mean, nobody will ever do that in life. Like, if somebody like do something to spite you or something to try to cause you harm, like, you're going to continue. Let's just say you go to a store and somebody just treats you like trash. Like, every time you go to the store, you're going to keep on going to the store just, to get ridiculed, embarrassed. Like, you don't have to do that, right? I ain't got to be here. I can go somewhere else. I'll take my business elsewhere, right? Like, I don't need you to do this. I know that you don't have my best interest at heart. So I'm gonna do something about it. I mean, some games you won't, but more often than not, if you're that good of a team, if you have what it takes to be a contender, you shouldn't be putting yourself in those type of positions consistently. I know teams are good, but if you're that great, you're supposed to be better. That's how I feel. What I want to see from the Saints is what we didn't see last year: situational coaching and consistent offensive drive to help the defense. I agree, and I think you might see that this year in 2023. At least you should. At least you should. Let's see. There needs to be eyes in the sky, basically a ref in the press box watching from above. That ref can overturn calls and make plays. Yeah, I've said that before. Now, if you're asking me, should they beef up? Should they beef up the ability to be able to see things? Absolutely. I mean, I want to say like the XFL. Like I feel like they got it right. They got somebody that can call down on the field. Now, I'm not for like challenging every play. Like, nah, miss me with all that. You'll be there forever. But if there's something that was egregious, like think about this. If the NFC Championship game in 2018, if they had an eye in the sky that could have buzzed down, we know what would have happened. The Saints would have, got the ball back, 1st and 10 with options. We know it, right? So if you had that, then it would have been fine, but they don't. I also feel like there's lack of accountability. I feel like if you had more accountability, they probably wouldn't have these type of issues. The fact that the referees can do these things over and over again and they get little to no accountability is the reason why they continue to, it continues to happen. That's why I've said on several occasions, I feel like just like they do the player introductions, they need to do the referees introductions. That's how it needs to be. Like, I feel like if Stephon Diggs drop a pass, Chris Olave drop a pass, Michael Thomas drop a pass, they got to hear all week long how much of a bum they are, how much of, how trash they are. People up there, got, saying stuff to their kids at school, all these different things there. But when it comes to the referees, you don't never see that. It's always generalized, right? It's, man, these referees. You might know Bill Vinovich or, Hockley or, some of these other guys that's been around for a while, but that's the headline judge. You know that guy because he's the one that's, on the microphone holding number 56 defense. Like spot foul, them. But what about the guy, the backline judge? You know what I'm saying? What about all those guys? You're like, you don't know them. You don't know them. I guarantee you, like, half of the people, probably some of you probably know what this is, but I guarantee you, majority of you watching this right now or listening to this right now couldn't tell me the black referee's name who didn't call the pass interference in the first place. You know Bill Vinovich because he was the head line judge, right? He's the one that used the microphone, that, that it say no pass interference, right? The reason why you despise him today. But he wasn't the only referee out there. So I feel like they should, like, the same way that these players, when they make mistakes, they get ridiculed, they get, they make a mistake. They get cursed from here to high water, to high heaven, as they say, and, they have to deal with it all week. Depends on the situation, all, months. Like when Marcus Williams, missed that tackle on Diggs, this man had to basically get on social media, right? But the referees, like that in the 2018 NFC Championship game, man, you could have walked down the street and I guarantee you probably wouldn't have recognized, like a referee in that game could have walked down the street and I guarantee you probably would have walked right past you. So I just feel like if they had more accountability, I think that it wouldn't just absolve mistakes, but I think that these guys would be on more high alert than what they actually are. I mean, that's just how I feel. They took the ref name out of the game program over a decade ago, and I don't understand that. Like, what they think? Like, okay, man, this referee, man, so you walking down the street, somebody beat him up, or somebody can do something to him. Can't they do the same thing with these players? Like, seriously. Like, you got psychos out here, man. You got people out here that take football way too seriously. I don't know if it's like bent up aggression. Maybe they got the Al Bundy syndrome. They scored 4 touchdowns at Polk High School and never lived up to their full potential. And now they look at these players living vicariously. I don't know. But you got some psychos out here. And those players go out here and be with their families and stuff like that. Yeah, man, these people crazy. But they have to deal with that. So why shouldn't the referees? That's all I'm saying. Why shouldn't the referees? What makes them so different? Why, like, somebody can do something to them. Somebody can do something to these players. They can do something to these coaches. Just because the coaches don't put their itinerary, is Dennis Allen on social media like, well, today I'm going to drive to Roush's, on airline. I'm like, on Veterans Boulevard. Like, he ain't going to put that, but you see him around the way. I mean, things ain't exactly going the way that Saints fans wanted to go. Dennis Allen be out there in the street. Hey, Dennis Allen, you piece of blah, 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 man, you suck, and all that kind of thing. And people taking it too serious. Something can happen, right? Knocking on wood. I hope nobody, no, I don't want anything to happen to Coach Allen, but people crazy. So what's the difference? So I feel like they should have some accountability. That's the problem. There is no accountability. There's no accountability for any referees. We don't even know who they are. Like I said, headline judges we know. We knew Ed Hockley all them years. He was the big swole referee, right? Now his son, is in the league right now. He's a headline judge. Bill Vinovich is another one. I mean, you got some guys, that you recognize, but those other referees, like, you don't know them. You don't know them unless they put like a little spotlight on them or something like that, and they barely ever do that. Now, they have female referees, they'll put the spotlight on them, which they should, because, I mean, they're breaking ground. But for the rest, as far as the rest of them, they ain't doing nothing, man. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. Let's see. The refs aren't finely tuned athletic machines. Who's the what? You don't think so? You don't think so? Okay, they may not be. Look, one thing a referee is athletic, right? Like, you got to think about this. Offense, defense. If you play on offense, when the defense out there, where you at? On the bench. If you play on defense and offense out there, where you at? On the bench. Special teams, on the bench. The referees out there all game long. They got to be running all game long. Special teams, kick return. They got to be around that thing, chasing, make sure the guy don't go out of bounds. To say that the referees aren't athletic is nah. And if you saying like they ain't big, physically imposing, I don't know if you ever seen some of these referees. Like, you would think some of these referees are actually football players. Did I not mention Ed Hockley? There's a nickname for him. They call him Ed Hercules, right? So to say that, and then on top of that, like I said, coaches, they're fair game. They not gladiators. I mean, unless, like, ain't nobody gonna mess with no Dan Campbell or nothing like that. But, a guy like, some of these smaller guys, that's out here, that's coaching Kevin McConnell. You see, like, Kevin McConnell is not tall at all. You know what I'm saying? Like guys like Josh McDaniels, like, these guys aren't tall at all. Like, you see these guys like Pete Carmichael. Like, come on, man. Like, these guys get put in harm's way all the time. I mean, if they driving somewhere, I mean, they got to be careful about where they go. But like I said, if they find themselves like just out and about on a leisurely stroll, you got some psychos out here and they can put themselves in harm's way. I'm not saying put their name on them so people can know who they are to do something to them. I'm just saying there needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability for your actions. And it would be better that, people aren't just spitting in the wind, to know exactly who you talking about. And also, like I said, it just like with these players, they're doing analytics, right? They're doing analytics. Now, they tell us that the playoffs consist of the referees that had the highest marks when it comes to calling plays and seeing the game the way it needs to be seen. Who's doing these evaluations, right? Seriously. Like, if you look at a guy, like seriously, if you look at a player, if you know he's playing good, like everybody here for the most part is a Saints fan. But you know how good Tyreek Hill is. You know how good Diggs is. You know how good CeeDee Lamb is. You know how good some of these other guys are, the running backs out here, the AKs, the Dalvin Cooks, you know how good these guys is, right? So when they have a high pro football focus grade, we can kind of get down with that because we see these guys play and dominate every single week. When it comes to the referees, once again, we don't know anything about these folks. We don't dang, boy, he sure did call that flag down the field on the 40-yard line. That definitely was pass interference. Let's go ahead and check that. If you had something like that where people can actually see analytically, just like we do with Pro Football Focus and some of the other analytics that are out there to be able to make a case for players as far as the pecking order, why can't you have the same thing when it comes to referees too? That's all I'm saying. Like, there is no accountability. It is too much. Take my word for it for me. And they're the only ones that get that. They're the only ones that get that. They're the only ones that get that. There's absolutely no accountability. Well, I don't want to say there's no accountability because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I think people would feel much better if there were more transparency when it comes to these referees. It's more so like, you ever had like a toddler child and they having a temper tantrum and you just put them off in a room, and be like, okay, I'm about to walk away. They'll be quiet eventually, kind of let them cry it out. That's what they do every single week when fans are getting frustrated and mad. Like, they never come out and say, oh, the referee made a mistake or that shouldn't have happened. We can't tolerate this. The way another player gets upset, like a Devontae Adams, who goes to, pushes a guy down. Now all of a sudden, like, he public enemy number one. But the referees, like, think about this. The referees still can decide a guy's fate. If this guy is guarding one guy, right? And let's just say he had perfect coverage. And this guy may be on the fence going into a contract year, or, this could be the deciding factor if this guy actually plays for this team ever again, right? There's a fine line between a hero and a GOAT. And let's just say the guy had perfect coverage, but they called pass interference. And that pass interference call in the fourth quarter with a minute and some change left, and they needed to make that stop in order for them to get the ball back, for their offense to get the ball back, and it doesn't happen. But that player, if he does that, guess what? I'm going on social media. I'm letting everybody know that player is a piece of garbage. Get that bum out of here. He on a contract year. Bye-bye, farewell. We're going to say that, right? But if you look at it and be like, man, that wasn't no pass interference. Who was the referee? Who was the referee that made that egregious mistake? Nobody knows. You know who they're going to blame? The guy who said it. The guy who out there on the microphone, which basically all he doing is telling you what the back judge said. But nobody knows who the back judge is. All I'm saying is they need some level of accountability. I know we were supposed to be talking about something different, but I feel like this would suffice. I feel like if you were to do some of the things that I mentioned, let people know who these referees are, right? Have some type of analytical system that people can actually see, right? To know how they decide who's doing what, who's better than whom. Then I feel like things would be much better. We'll be able to, we'll be able to sleep better at night. You know what I'm saying? We'll be able to sleep better at night. So that's the way I feel about it. So the guy on the mic is the head ref, and he does have the final say. Look, I mean, but what can you say? Okay, all right, 6:15. Okay, somebody punches somebody in the face, right? Let's just say, for example, I punch your brother in the face, right? I punch your brother in the face. Everybody, everybody pretty much know that it was, it was me, but you start pointing to somebody else, right? Everybody like, he did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he did it. Him over there. What you gonna do? You gonna take everybody's word for it, right? If you weren't nowhere around your back turn, I'm the one that punched him. You ain't got no evidence that I did it, but everybody pointing over here, right here. What you gonna do? Gonna be like, okay, I'll rule with them. That's what they do. If you in the middle of the field or you behind a quarterback and a play happens 40 yards down the field, and they be like, okay, it's pass interference. There's two people that, that can probably, change your mind, right? Number one, the way, like you can ask some questions, be like, okay, did he do this? Did he do this? Man, I'm telling you, it was pass interference. Man, he grabbing this man. I thought they were about to go on a date after this. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You're gonna be like, man, pass interference, right? Somebody, upstairs or something like that in New York can call, man, that one pass interference. Maybe it'll help you out, but that doesn't happen often. You're basically making these decisions in real time, right? So that's the way that it goes, man. That's the way it goes. Like, to say, oh man, it's the referee's fault, it's his fault. How can he, like, if a referee down the field is telling you that it's pass interference, you were nowhere around, you didn't see it, the egregious act, all you can do is just take their word for it. So to say that it's somebody else's fault, right? It's almost like, to me, it's like a lawyer defending a guy who's telling him he's innocent, but it turns out he's guilty. I mean, how can you get mad at the lawyer? The lawyer is only doing his job. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I feel like you need accountability. When we get mad at the headline judge for announcing something that another judge seen, and we get mad at that guy, and he's public enemy number one. But in reality, he is the one that is just doing his job. He had to call it out. He had to call it how you see it. That is why I am making an emotion and I am opposing, well, not opposing, but I would suggest, that's the word, I will suggest that they create something where we actually know who these people are, who the backline judge is, who the headline judge is, right? All the referees on the field. Like, come on, man. Like, that's all I'm saying. I think it would make things much better. Wouldn't it make you feel good if you knew that, Willie Sims, Willie Sims was the backline judge? Man, that bum Willie Sims, man, this the third time, man, he done screwed the team. Like, this, right? These guys, like, man, that doggone Willie Sims, man. You can look at the list. Oh, man, you already know what type of day it's going to be. Man, Willie Sims, God dog, that Willie Sims, man. Like that, but it'll help you. It'll help you. And also it'll keep you on high alert to see if Willie Sims actually on the up and up. So, I mean, you couldn't tell me like how many different backline judges called the Saints game. I couldn't tell you. And I couldn't tell you their names. And I'd like to say I follow football quite well, but it will probably be much better. But I know we went off. I've been on a big tangent about that, but I felt like it was worth it. It was worth it. But thank y'all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. I ask that you don't throw a flag, but you do throw a thumbs up for your boy and hit that like button. Also, hit the subscription button if you enjoy the State of the Saints podcast. You got previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, Megaphone FM. Shouts out to Belly Up Media Network. Follow them on Twitter at Belly Up Media. And follow me on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.